All right, welcome everyone. So glad that you're joining us tonight for Admission Success for Homeschool Students. My name is Mark Pohl, and I'm the Associate Vice President of Enrollment Management and Financial Aid at Grace College. And so I'm in Indiana, a new state from those of you on the chat so far. So glad you're here. We are so glad. I know both NACAP as an organization, that's the organization that organizes college fairs, virtual events like this, and Grace College. We love homeschool students, and we're glad to serve you in this very specific way to help you learn a little bit more about the admissions process. Our goal for the next 20 minutes or so is to provide an overview of the admissions process and homeschool specific information and tips to help you on your college journey. So glad that you joined us. The main thing here, even more important than admission success, is your success when you think about the future. Of course, you want to get a college degree and get a good career that helps you and your passions for the future. So thanks for joining us. I hope that you find tonight to have the tools, provide some tools and knowledge necessary to thrive in college and your future career in life with your family, your friends, your coworkers. As we start to think about college, I'm going to provide some general things, like I said, some kind of the bird's eye view of going to college. And then I'll zero in and land that plane on some very specific homeschool information for you. So I hope that you find it helpful. And I'm going to leave at least 5 to 10 minutes at the end for your questions. So feel free to chat your questions. I might catch some questions if you ask during this webinar, but for sure at the end, I'll read those questions in the chat and make sure we address your questions. So thanks for joining us this evening. All right, as you think about college, of course, the first thing is to do your homework, start researching. Encourage everyone to get online and begin searching online for colleges you might want to attend. Get that mailed information. I'm sure some of you are getting loaded mailboxes right now with college information, but I encourage you to talk to alumni from different schools. Call those admissions offices, get to know them, ask difficult questions, ask relevant questions. You know, a lot of times people ask about class size, and that does tell you something about a school. Certainly, if you could look at a large school, you're going to have 100 or more in a class. And if you're looking at a smaller school, you might have, a dozen or 2 dozen students in a class. But really, a more relevant question to ask is, how large is that particular major I'm interested in at a college? And so asking relevant questions like that will help you get to know a college really well. And visiting campus is certainly the best way for you to get to know a campus. So visit early, visit often. We have freshmen and sophomores visiting Grace College. We certainly have homeschool students as well. At Grace College, 10% of our students actually graduate from a homeschool. And over 20% of our students have been homeschooled at some point in their education. So getting at, I think it was Haley's question earlier in the chat about how long someone's been homeschooled. That's a great question. But yeah, so we welcome homeschool students, of course, visiting Grace College, and every college, I'm sure, will welcome you to visit. And that is the best way for you to get to know, is this place a good fit for me? Is the campus culture something I value? Do you want a college that is only academics and very serious in your major of study? Do you want a place that's more balanced and really embracing all of life and has more activities and ways for you to connect that career to everyday life? So visit, find out if it's a research university, a liberal arts school, what kind of college it is. Ask lots of questions when you're visiting a campus. Find out those beliefs and values that drive the culture of the campus. A lot of smaller colleges like Grace, you can tour the campus. You can, of course, eat lunch in the cafeteria. Admissions and financial aid meetings. You can actually sit down and meet with professors. Really encourage you to do that. Before COVID, I would tell you to spend the night on campus. Most colleges I know of don't allow you to spend the night on campus this year due to their safety guidelines. But when COVID is over, certainly encourage you to do that, because spending the night on campus really gives you the true sense of what the students at that college value. And those are the students you're going to be spending 4 years of your life with. So visit early and visit often. Then, of course, applying. Most colleges you'll apply online. The fall is certainly best time to apply. The fall of your senior year, that is. and read all those instructions on that application. Find out if there's additional forms necessary, references, those kinds of things. Some schools will have minimal application fees. So make sure you're applying to college. I encourage you to apply to at least 2 or 3 colleges so that you have options. Same thing with visiting. Make sure you visit more than one college. And when you find a college that you love, visit that college more than once. There's always that chance that you met the only 5 nice people on that college campus. But I'm sure that won't be the case, but you really do want to get to know more than just a few people on campus, and visiting multiple times can help you do that. And so visit, apply to the college, and specifically want to share some information. Sorry, let me go back a screen there, about your homeschool transcript. I know this is often a question we get from homeschool families. What does our homeschool transcript need to look like? And so I've listed here the things that at Grace, and I truly think most colleges are looking for on that transcript, providing your school name and contact information. So making sure that you have both your address and phone number, email, contact information on that transcript. Of course, list every course name by semester and year that you took that course in high school, and specifically identifying any dual credit, honors courses, those sorts of things on your transcript. The college will not know, there's the potential they will not know if you do not make that known to them. And so identifying dual credit and honors level coursework is really helpful to the admissions office. Provide letter grades for each course, your GPA by semester, year, and then your cumulative GPA. Most colleges are specifically interested in that cumulative GPA and hoping that trajectory that you've been on in high school is an upward trajectory of doing better each year. Sometimes we see the opposite trajectory where a student starts strong freshman year and goes downhill. But we, of course, always want to see good grades. And if you have struggled in high school, hopefully it was early on and you're recovering. It's never too late to work hard and improve your grades and things in school. So, and then listing your anticipated final graduation date, that's a must. So whether that's May or June of 2021 for current seniors, make sure you list that on your transcript, and then your teacher or parent, whoever's in charge of your education, should sign that transcript and send it to the college. At this point in the process, you can usually email that to the college admissions office. You could certainly mail it if you'd like. And then you'll have a final transcript sent at the end of your homeschool education once you graduate. So that's the homeschool transcript. Some admissions tips, and I'll make sure we can provide these links to you in the chat here during our Q&A. I'll put these links in the chat, but ensure your coursework is preparing you for college. College Boards runs the SAT, and I provided a link here of courses, college preparatory courses that we encourage all students to take during your 4 years of high school. And certainly always encourage students to take dual credit courses to get a head start on college. That's a great way for homeschool students to get a year, 2 years finished with college before you even move to a college campus. And so dual credit courses are a good thing to do. Always encourage students in high school to focus on those core classes. You might be excited to be a teacher, a doctor, a lawyer someday, but save those major courses for when you get to your college of choice. Focus more on the courses that are very transferable to colleges, you know, your English composition, your math, science, history kinds of courses while you're in high school to get a head start on college. It's a great thing to do. Consider references and a record of substantive, extracurricular involvement, volunteer experience, leadership experience, and awards received. I put substantive because you know, sometimes we'll see things like I mowed the yard for my grandma on a resume or that kind of thing for a student, and that's great. You should mow the lawn for your grandma, but certainly put things on your college CV or resume that are a little more substantial than that sort of thing. But service organizations and things that you're a part of are great things to list. But I think you get the picture there. So. And then as a homeschool student, make sure you understand financial aid. You might not have all of the resources that a student at a private or public school have in terms of a guidance office and finding out where to apply for scholarships. So make sure you advocate for yourself. And I'll give you a few tips here as well. Make sure you file the FAFSA by between October 1st, that's when it opens in the senior year, and then by your state deadline. In Indiana, it's April 15th. We are one of the earlier state deadlines. And so make sure you find out what the deadline is in your state to qualify for state financial aid and file by that deadline. There are three main sources of financial aid. This is really key. If you can understand this, it will go a long way. The three main places you're going to get financial aid for college. Number one is the government. That's through filing the FAFSA. So that's where you may qualify for Pell Grant, for state aid, for loans for college. The loans through the FAFSA are the best loans to take for college. They're the lowest interest rate, usually the best terms and things. And then the second place is the college that you're considering. Of course, applying and being accepted there, hopefully you'll receive a merit scholarship. And when they receive your FAFSA, they'll consider you for need-based aid from a college. And so most colleges have need-based aid to help students that need additional financial aid based on, especially if you're a low or middle income family. And then the third place to find financial aid for college is your hometown community. I always tell folks that I know it's tempting to spend a lot of time on web searches looking for those left-handed, red-headed scholarships. But I tell you, those really do not come through for students. There's a lot of marketing ploys out there. Organizations on the internet will send you lots of emails and no money, or maybe 1 in a million students in the country get that scholarship. A better use of your time and energy is applying for any community foundations, any grants, any scholarships in your hometown community. So see if the county that you live in has a community foundation. Certainly apply for anything like that. You know, one exception for national searches, if you want to go on the internet and look for scholarships for college, try to find very specific things that are specific to you. Say you're an Eagle Scout. Say you have a health condition that there's been a foundation set up for scholarships. You certainly look for those kinds of things on the internet, but otherwise focus your energy on filing that FAFSA, talking to the college, the admissions office to learn of every avenue at the college to get financial aid. And then lastly, apply for everything you can in your county and your hometown community. And with financial aid, you really want to focus not on the price tag of the school you're considering, but on your cost after financial aid is applied. This slide here that I have showing now shows 3 different schools. So pretend 1, 2, 3 there on that bar graph are 3 different schools. The cost of attendance to those 3 schools may be different as shown in these bars. There may be a more costly one, there might be a medium cost one, and a low cost school. So those are varied based on the schools you might be looking at. Then the FAFSA will calculate what's called the EFC, the expected family contribution. And that is a constant. So no matter where you go to college, your expected family contribution may be 0. It may be $5,000. It may be $20,000. That's dependent upon many things that the FAFSA looks at, but mainly your parental income, your savings, those sorts of things that you have for college. The government will calculate your expected family contribution. There's a whole host of other variables I won't get into, but that FAFSA will calculate your EFC. And then what's left over, as you see in that last bar chart, is your financial need. And that varies per institution you're considering. And so at that higher cost college, that pink, sorry, I'm not very good with colors. Sorry if it's not pink. But that bar anyway, your financial need at that school is larger. And so at the blue or maybe violet school, whatever that color is, that your financial need there is smaller. And so the school that costs more, that pink school, generally they're going to try to give you more financial aid to go there. The school the blue school or purple or whatever it is probably going to give you less financial aid. And so you really want to focus though on that price after your financial aid. So don't write off a school too early in the decision-making process because tuition, room and board is $35,000 and your community college is $10,000. You really want to wait, be patient, see what financial aid comes in from the FAFSA, from the college, from your community foundations, and see how much it would cost to go to each school. There's a lot of value in getting a good education at a private school, like one of the NACAP schools. And so really encourage you to be patient and wait. I'm always amazed at how God blesses those families that are patient and wait to see how much financial aid comes in for you. And so those are my recommendations in terms of financial aid. The final stop in your journey to college and your success as a homeschool student is making your decision. Once you've chosen a college, send in your enrollment deposit or your fee for enrollment. Most of those will range anywhere from $100 to $500. Some schools waive those deposits for specific populations. I know at Grace College, we waive that deposit for athletes when they sign a letter of intent to come to Grace. They don't pay a deposit. Other low-income families that come to Grace do not pay a deposit. And so make sure you're talking to the admissions office when you make that decision and submit your enrollment deposit. And lastly there, enjoy the journey. This is a big decision where you're going to go to college. But God already knows, and he is for you. And I know that the Lord cares a lot more about your heart and who you are than your physical location. So find a place where you can grow, where you can thrive, where God is at work on the campus, and where you know that God can be at work within you on a campus. And so God cares much more about your heart than your zip code, as I always say. So do that research, get to know colleges, get to know their culture, their values, who they are, and what they're about. And a shameless plug for admissions offices everywhere. Those other colleges will keep contacting you until you tell them that you won't be attending their college. So just keep them informed throughout your decision-making process. Let them know when you've chosen another school so that they're not spending their resources on contacting students that are no longer interested. And so that you're not bothered by emails and phone calls from lots of colleges. And so those are the main things I wanted to share in this webinar. And let me get to your questions now. Feel free to type in the chat bar if you have questions. I need to maximize my screen here. Right. Sorry, I'm trying to find my chat here. I may need to stop the presentation to get there. Andy, are you on? I'm having trouble getting to my chat.
Yep, I will. Yeah, I just think if you end your screen share, it'll bring you back to.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we are running right on time. What questions do you all have for me that I can help you with? Feel free to ask anything, homeschool specific or with your college search. Any questions about the college process? Financial aid, I know, can be tricky for a lot of students. And so if you have any financial aid questions, do you have any ideas on how we could find local scholarships to apply for? That's a great question. So I'll say multiple things here. I know on our financial aid page on our website, there is actually a national search for community foundations. Let me pull that up. And then the other thing I always tell homeschool students is be bold, go into the public school office, guidance office in your community and ask them if you could have some information about community foundations and scholarships. I think you'll find that the guidance office, even in your public schools there in the area, are willing to help you and are generally the most connected to those scholarships and opportunities in your community. And so I will share a Community Foundation website, communityfoundationatlas.org. And this is actually worldwide, but you can zero in on your community here and find community foundations in your area. Some states are a little better populated on here than others, but that might help you.
Mark, Wendy just popped a question into the Q&A. There's a couple questions there in the Q&A from Wendy.
All right. Wondering about any prejudices against or for homeschoolers in college applications in general. Oh my, that's a good question. Obviously, talk to admissions offices and find out whether the school has a lot of homeschool students. If they don't have many homeschool students, you might ask why. That could indicate some prejudice against homeschool students. If they don't have homeschool students, or it could just be a lack of homeschooling in their particular state where the college is located. But yeah, I mean, every school is going to be a little bit different in how they treat homeschool students. At Grace, we treat them like any other student and have the same opportunities for homeschool students. But yeah, I think within NACAP schools in particular, you'll find open arms at the Christian colleges that are part of the NACAP organization. So I would really encourage you to get on NACAP's website and look through the colleges and universities that are a part of NACAP. Obviously, there is a bit of a spectrum within Christian colleges and universities. And so you might find, you're going to find various, church backgrounds, denominations on the conservative to liberal or conservative to moderate to liberal in terms of theology. And so you definitely want to ask those questions to find out kind of where a school is at on a spectrum in terms of biblical interpretation. I know that's important for a lot of homeschool families. At Grace, we often talk to homeschool families about our view on creation science, that we're a creationist school. And I know that's important to a lot of homeschool families, not every homeschool family, but that's a good question to ask that can kind of give you a sense of where a school might fall in that spectrum. Let's see, next question. How do we get access to a guidance counselor to help us? Well, before COVID, I said walk into a guidance office, and that might be a little harder in the COVID era. But usually you can find that information on public school websites. Guidance counselors are very busy and overworked, and so you may not get a reply, but once in a while you might hit the jackpot and get a good guidance counselor that's willing to help you as a homeschool student. Yeah, so I would just try to make connections at the public school. When COVID is over, and hopefully it is over in a matter of months, I would stop in and see if you can talk face-to-face with a guidance office and get information from them. Any thoughts on the CLT versus SAT and ACT? Yeah, so Grace, we've been accepting the CLT. That's the classical learning test for those of you that don't know. It's an alternative to the ACT and SAT. It started, I believe, on the East Coast and tends to be a little more popular on the East Coast, but it's really coming into the Midwest and all over the country now. We accept it equally, and I think you'll find a good number of schools do. You can go on the CLT website and find colleges and universities they partner with. The question was specifically thoughts on the CLT versus SAT and ACT. Another thing I wanted to mention is, due to COVID, most colleges now are test optional, meaning they do not require a test score. You can go to fairtest.org and find a list of hundreds of colleges and universities that no longer require test scores. Grace and many other colleges, because the tests specifically SAT and ACT, I know CLT offers an at-home option, I believe, but ACT and SAT were postponing and canceling tests. We were really forced to decide to go test optional for this past fall. Well, when we looked at our data, we actually realized that a student's high school education is a much better predictor of success in college than test scores. And we've all known this intuitively, right? That 4 years in high school is a better predictor of success in the future than a few hours on a standardized test. And so we've actually decided to go permanently test optional, meaning we no longer require ACT or SAT or CLT at Grace College. And that is the case at actually, I think it's close to half or so of Christian colleges in the United States. And so fairtest.org is a good place to find colleges and universities that are now no longer requiring the ACT or SAT. And you'll find on that website, I think they'll let you know if it's temporary or permanent, if the college is temporarily test optional or permanently test optional. Test prep ideas, I'm sure there are lots of options. I'm not an expert with test prep for ACT or SAT. How many times do you take the test? I took the ACT 4 times. Some people nerd out on those standardized tests, and I understand that. They say the end of the junior year is the best time to take a standardized test. Your junior year curriculum is really generally good for college prep. And so the end of the junior year, I would definitely take it at the end of the junior year for the first time, and then retake it in the senior year if you're not pleased with your test scores. So I would say for most people, 2 times is sufficient to take the standardized test. But some students, do better. I took it 4 times. My third score was my highest, and it was 6 points better than the first time I took it on the ACT. So 6 points is a pretty big jump on the ACT. And so oftentimes it is worth to take it more than once. But Sarah shared that she used PWN, the SAT for prep, and it was really helpful. So thanks for sharing that, Sarah. Good. I don't have many thoughts about whether the CLT is preferred over SAT and ACT. I think you just want to talk to the colleges you're looking at and see if they take the CLT and whether it's equally valid in their eyes or weighted for admission and scholarships as the ACT and SAT. Not only admission, but scholarships as well.
Yeah. Mark, I think we've got time. Wendy's got one more question there in the Q&A about electronically submitting transcripts. And then we'll go ahead and wrap things up.
So as a homeschool family, there certainly are ways to electronically send transcripts. I think the easiest way to do it is the old email. So I would just email your transcript to the admissions office. At Grace, it's admissions@grace.edu, but most colleges, you can find their email address and send it to them. For homeschool students, there's really no point in doing an electronic service. It's not any more valid than sending it to us by email. So generally you can email that to schools. Thank you all for listening, and don't need to go through a traditional third-party service. Not at Grace. I know, Andy, you were at a college before you worked for NACAP. Did they require it to come through a traditional third-party service?
It's been several years ago, but not that I recall. I think a direct submission was what that institution accepted as well. So.
Yeah, so I've not heard of that for homeschool families. So I think email works just fine. But yeah, my contact information is in, I'll type it here as well. Anytime you guys can call me after this webinar, I'm happy to talk more on the phone, and I'll also provide my email. You can email me anytime. I'm glad to help you, especially if you're interested in Grace, but even if you're not, I'm glad to help you and get to know you better.
Yeah. So there's, in addition to this webinar tonight, there's also an actual virtual college fair happening representing our Western Great Lakes colleges in Illinois, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. I know most of you are a little further east, but those states or schools you're interested in, we would certainly encourage you to stick around. I just put the link to the fairs there in the web in our chat box here. And also wanted to clarify if there's any of those schools that you visit this evening or at any of our other virtual Christian college fairs, the fair platform that we use actually sets up for you to be able to safely and securely submit documents through the college fair booth. So if you have your transcript ready to go and you're talking to a school and you want to submit your transcript, those booths are set up to be able to safely and securely receive those documents. So just something to keep in mind as you browse through the different institutions that are there and as you consider your options for the future as well. So Mark, I want to thank you again for your time this evening. For those of you that hopped in and joined us, thank you as well for your time. Hope you stick around and visit some college fair booths. MyBlueprintStory.com has a whole host of the other virtual college fair, Christian college fairs that we're offering all the way through February. So there's a whole slate of them for you to check out, depending on niche interests, location, all that good stuff. So again, thank you everyone, and enjoy your evening.
Thanks, Andy.